Good afternoon. This is Robert Scribbler. I'm going to be discussing an update from NASA GISS, updated global temperature analysis that recently came in. And what NASA has found is that April of 2018 was 0.86 degrees Celsius above the 20th century NASA baseline, which is a mid 20th century measure. And if you correlate that to the late 19th century, the 1880s start point for the NASA reference, it ends up being about 1.08 degrees Celsius above average. So overall, this is the third warmest April on average, despite the fact that we are presently experiencing La Nina conditions in the equatorial Pacific. And La Nina has a global effect in that it's a natural variability related process that is the cool side of natural variability. So La Nina years tend to be cooler than El Nino years on a global basis. And the last El Nino year was 2016, and we saw very severe record warmth during that year. Of course, the primary driver of the record high temperatures is greenhouse gas emissions, primarily from fossil fuel burning. So we're going to look at some maps to see where it was warmer than normal around the globe. And we find that the regions where most of the warmth occurred during April of 2018 was in northeastern Siberia and the region of the East Siberian Sea, and spilling over here into the Chukchi a bit, as well as in Central Europe. Now, the cool regions were over north-central North America, and there was a cool pool up over the far north, and also a minor cool pool down in Antarctica. If you're looking at the zonal averages, now these zonal averages are looking at latitudinal zones and the various departures from average for a certain latitude. So say, for example, if you're looking at 0 degrees latitude, you're looking at the equator, and you can see that around the equator it was about a little less than half a degree Celsius above normal, and so that's in this region here. And that's a bit odd considering the fact that we were still experiencing La Nina conditions. You would tend to expect this, all things being equal, to be a bit cooler during a La Nina year, but of course fossil fuel burning is throwing the whole system out of whack. Now let's talk about this outlier up here in the far north. So recently there appears to have been a snapback to cooler conditions during April in the far north as sunlight strikes the equator and northward, building up a warm air conveyance in the lower latitudes, which increases the temperature differential between the pole and the lower latitudes and tends to reinforce the jet stream. This year, the snapback to cooler conditions only occurred in a very small zone. And as a result, we appear to have a lot of energy transfer in the near Arctic in the range of about 66 to 70 degrees north latitude. And so we still see a considerable amount of warm air invasion in the lower regions of the Arctic in April. And this appears to have had some knock-on effects in May, where the jet stream appears to have gotten out of whack again, and we have seen some rather significant polar warming occur during May, which is an odd time of year to have high levels of anomalies, warm temperature anomalies in the Arctic. So just to discuss some of the dynamics of the situation, we were talking about how we're presently experiencing La Nina. And so if you look at the lower portion of this graph here, 2018 falls in a weak La Nina phase, following a very strong El Nino. And that would tend to, again, result in a drop back in global temperatures. And that's what we've seen following the 2016 El Nino, which was very strong. We've seen a drop back in global temperatures into 2017 and 2018. And it appears that the present trend is for 2018 to be about 1.05 degrees Celsius above 1880s averages, or in that range. What's expected to happen is that the present La Nina is already fading out, and NOAA predicts there's a 50% chance of an El Nino by next winter, so late 2018. So what we're seeing is that the equatorial Pacific is starting to warm up again. This is mid-April. I'm going to go ahead and switch to the present. So as we can see, this region of cool water is receding. Warm water is beginning to enclose upon areas of the equatorial Pacific, and what we tend to see if there's going to be an El Nino is that there would be warm water upwelling starting in this region, probably by summertime, if that does occur. 50% is not a high likelihood, but it's certainly on the charts. And if we do see El Nino occur, we will tend to see these temperatures in the NASA grid begin to ramp up again. Probably, if it's a weak El Nino, as is expected, if an El Nino does occur late this year, it's unlikely that we will see temperatures during that El Nino exceed those of 2016, which was a strong El Nino event. But it is likely that we will see temperatures relatively close to that number, so pushing 1.15 degrees Celsius above 1880s averages, and possibly, approaching 1.2 degrees Celsius above 1880s averages. So this is NASA update, third hottest April on record.